there's a good attendance, great attendance in the SSFL. Even though they complain it's not as big as it was in the past incarnations, it's still pretty good compared to the Pro League. In fact, it's embarrassing when you make the comparison at times. Some of these same players play for the Pro League teams. You have national team players on these teams. Yet the attendance is, if you're lucky, maybe 100. Andrew, what do you think in terms of that gap? Is there any way to solve this problem? What do you think is the reason?
To me personally, the reason why the schools leagues always have that attendance because you're close to it's not normally your schoolmate or your classmate or somebody you can interact with. So what the Pro League has to do is to recreate that kind of connectivity. You have to attach or align clubs with neighborhoods and communities. And that's the only way. That's the only way. And I think they tried it to a certain extent, but it's just the players, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, because I think if you look at the role of a club in foreign countries, the club actually supports the community. So it's a two-way procedure. And I think that if we can replicate something like that, where the community sees the club as something to aspire to, then we can have attendances boosting up.
And it's funny because, I mean, not to switch sports, but when you look at the cricket model, you have a lot of community cricket taking place. And when you have the community clubs playing, you actually see quite a number of people. The whole village would come out to support the players because, it's my neighbor across the road or it's somebody from down the street or somebody neighbor or whatever. And that's what it's all about, that grassroots feeling that would bring the fans out. And that's the only way, because we don't have that marquee to attract that marquee type player to attract. I mean, Kevin is back. So, but I mean, I don't know who going in. Leaving him. I mean, as much as he is as marquee as you can get, he's probably the biggest player to ever play in the Pro League. Let's be real. I mean, as much as people like him and don't like him, Kevin is the highest profile player to ever play on the, and it's still. I mean, let's see what kind of impact he has.
I think that logistically it could be a problem if you are, let's say, a fan from Tony Grande or Togo. It could be a problem financially to get to Point Fortin every week or two. So that could be a problem. But I think that once it comes into and we see the inner workings, it could be beneficial.
One of my concerns is I actually like the concept at least. But where I'm really concerned about is that I think there's a middle ground that has yet to be reached where, so you have these stadiums that were built and the intent by, former vice president of FIFA,
Mr. Warner,
wanted to, construct a professional league. And he built stadiums in strategic areas with the intent that it would boost, so they say, that was the mission statement, to get football, and give them a facility and so on. I heard some people, I can't remember the names for the life of me right now, saying, there's a trend of thought where some say, let's take it back to the communities, which we all agree is a pretty good way to go. And then there's some of the foreigners who come down and say, foreign clubs, which we all know has history on their side. Some of these clubs are like 100 years old. And maybe the people are forgetting that, listen, you can't just build history overnight. W Connection is probably one of the oldest clubs in the context of the Pro League. There were some other clubs before that just eventually dissolved, Joe Public and so on. But W Connection would probably be civic as well as history. But in the current format, when you think Pro League, you think W Connection. And they struggle to get people to attend their games. And some people are saying, all right, yes, take it back to the community. And some people saying, if you have your team, for example, W Connection is supposedly a team in Cuba.
Right.
But they play their home games all over Trinidad. When they do have home games, some people make the argument, listen, if you really love football, you'll go wherever your team is going. And they say that addresses a deeper problem with Trinidad, where fans are, it shows up how our fans are not really as passionate as we think.
But we're passionate, but we're not passionate about the TTProleague.
Exactly, and that's.
I mean, because you would have two people, an Arsenal fan and a Chelsea fan, quarreling in the bar. You know what I mean? Like, but you're not from London, you're not from West or North London, so behave for yourself.
I agree. That's
but they have that passion for a team that they just follow via their TV screens. And that still you have local clubs here, because right now a Central FC W Connection game is a big derby. I mean, there's a lot of bragging rights, but nobody seems to care.
I think that even with sports in general, when you look at teams being uprooted, they do it a lot in the US. I mean, in the MLS, they did it as well. You have the Chivas and the San Jose Earthquakes, but also in other sports like basketball, we uproot an entire team. Grizzlies is an example.
Yeah.
And I think that if in Trinidad, if we do something like that, then we would see exactly, okay, who's a fan or not, but it can also bring in fans that you may never even think about bringing before.
Yeah.
So that's another point that we can probably look into in the future.
And people criticize the MLS model, but there's lots of things we could learn from how the MLS does things. Of course, they have lots of money. Of course, they're well drilled. And you can't deny that as a factor. But there's certain things, and I'll have to give credit to Central. They made the Kenyan move was more than just a transfer for Central. I think. I think it was a attempt to raise the profile of the league. We don't know how successful it is yet. Love him or hate him, as you said, Kenvin Jones is our biggest player right now and the biggest player in the Pro League
by far.
So. Love him or hate him, and probably because of the fact there's this love-hate relationship with Kenvin, where it may attract fans. Where
I'm actually hearing that, as you said, I'm actually hearing a couple of the players who played with the national team before looking to come back as well.
Yeah, I heard Carlos Edwards has been looking around.
Carlos Edwards, and I've heard whispers of Jason Scotland as well.
That was, and I think one of the things I always said after the 2006 squad did what they did. I heard Anthony Roger and we do some work together, and he said what he thought would have took place, is that each team, they did the marquee signing thing when the players were at their peak. Now, of course, these guys, to get them away from Europe was also an obstacle. Then there was the issue with salaries and the fees owed, which we don't want to get into. That's a whole other story by itself. But I think the trend of thought was right, where each team needs to get that marquee player. And I think it is what it is. Trinidadians love international football. It's a harsh reality we have to face. Until we start marketing young players properly, we may have to resort as a short-term solution to maybe somehow getting maybe a player on the way out who's probably retiring, maybe grab somebody like a David Villa somehow. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing a name out there. But a player of that stature, which I think once we get that first player, which I can't see happening anytime soon, salaries and it's just why would they want to come here?
I'm remembering Jose Luis Sierra in my mind.
Oh, the Brazilian. But that didn't really work out so well. But generally, I think it's a big problem. I think we'll need to have a whole show by itself.
As more than one show.
Probably a series. With Andre and Kevin. Double AK. So, this is something we really can't find a definitive answer. But in the context of what we were talking about, we both have mixed views. All three of us, have mixed views.
Okay, everyone, and don't forget, if you like and subscribe our YouTube page, Extra Time TV, you instantly qualify for the opportunity to win 2 tickets to the Trinidad and Tobago versus Costa Rica on November 2016.